Well, I just absolutely love this little Smith & Wesson Model 41. Now you may be questioning that comment and wondering to yourself, how can you love an inanimate object like a gun? Well, for those of us that are gun owners worldwide, doesn't necessarily have to be someone that lives in the United States where your freedom and right to keep and bear arms are protected by the Second Amendment, but there are hunters and shooters worldwide that have a particular pride and admiration for the guns that they own. And the reasons can be anywhere simply because they have that pride in ownership, something that they've always wanted, and they've been fortunate enough to obtain that particular gun. Or it could be something that was handed down to you by your dad or your grandfather or an uncle or an old friend or somebody that is no longer with you, and it has a certain sentimental value. Or it can simply hold memories. You know, you may own a gun that you've always wanted and you took it out on a successful hunt and it has a lot of memories attached to it. So it's really a multifaceted subject pertaining to the reasons why we hold some of these pieces of equipment dear to our hearts. So before I go into it in great detail, I'm going to show you some of the guns that I hold dear and the reasons behind it. Well, folks, I chose this location here next to my old woodshed because I can lean some of these old guns that I've got here up against the shed and share the story behind each one of them and the reasons why I hold them dear. And I think a lot of the stories you can relate to because in many cases you have similar stories in the guns that you own. Just like in this Model 41 here that I've wanted for so long, now that I've got it, I'm really proud to own it. And it's just something I like to go and take out and practice with and shoot at targets. You know, that's basically what I would use it for. I could realistically also use it for small game hunting because it is truly a superbly accurate pistol. And I have a video where I compare this one with the Ruger Mark IV. So if you want to go back and see that video, just go to my channel and you'll see the comparison between the Ruger Mark IV and the Smith & Wesson Model 41. The one gun that started it all is this Remington Model 581. This is the original, folks. This is the one that I started out with. I was 16 years old and I told my dad that I'd like to have a .22 rifle. And he said, well, that's fine, but you're going to earn it. So I got a job washing dishes for a couple of weeks. And when I finally earned enough money to pay for the gun, we went to a gun store. My dad was in the Army, and there was a rod and gun club in the base there where we were stationed in Germany. I remember walking into that rod and gun club there where my dad was stationed in Germany, and going through the door I can still envision looking down one wall and then down the other, and it was just lined with different rifles and shotguns. And my dad said, well, go pick you one out. And I remember looking at a Remington nylon 66, and at the time I just didn't have much appeal for the plastic stock. You know, it looked plastic to me and I thought, no, I don't want that, even though now nylon 66s are very popular and very much sought after by collectors. So anyway, I kept looking down that line. I think they had them all divided in .22s and then center fire rifles and shotguns and so on. And in that Remington line there was a Model 581 that I said, let me see that one there. That's a bolt action, because I've always had an affinity for bolt action rifles. So I looked at it and I said, well, that's the one I want. So we went back home, and then about a week later I was anticipating my dad coming home, and when he walked through the door I saw that long green box over his shoulder, and he said, son, there's your rifle. And I still have that box, and I still have the same rifle here. It's been a great little rifle. It's super accurate. I did a few things to it that I kind of wish I hadn't. I checkered the grip here and the fore end. Looking back now, I kind of wish I'd left it in stock condition, but this gun holds so many memories. I mean, I went on my very first hunts with this gun, and I remember taking it to the target range and shooting it. I remember my grandfather shooting it. You know, he had it in his hands, and my dad shot it a few times, and everybody in the family had to try it out. Of course, it wasn't wearing a scope at the time, but I could tell right away that it was a really fine shooting gun. And I've always had so much admiration for this particular model because, you know, it's a time-proven classic. It's something that has held on through the years. I've got so many memories that are attached to this little rifle right here. I mean, it's just countless, and I could sit for hours and think back all the good times I had with this little .22 rifle. Years later, I got into deer hunting, and I did some bow hunting, and also, you know, my brother and I, we shared a lot of times together out in the deer woods. So my dad went out and bought a deer rifle for us. And anyway, we couldn't both hunt with the same gun at the same time. So I found another rifle. It was a Winchester Model 94 30-30 that I gave to my brother to deer hunt with. So I ended up with this one here. This is a customized Mauser Model 98 chambered in 30-06, and I've owned it for many, many years now. And I couldn't tell you how many deer that I've harvested with this rifle right here. Every year I would fill the freezer with this old rifle here. I don't know how many venison meals that it has accounted for, but like I say, there's so many memories attached to it. You know, it's something given to me by my dad, and it's something that has fed myself and my family through the years. So that's the admiration I have for this old gun. You know, it's nothing real special. I mean, the wood isn't, you know, it's pretty much a plain walnut stock, a Mauser 98 action, as you can see here, and it's just has a lot of memories attached to it. And my wife, she took her first deer with this gun, so, you know, it's become part of the family, so to speak. So like I said, you know, just like with the little Remington 581, this gun has a lot of memories attached to it. Just love this gun. And then a few years later, my brother got into muzzleloader hunting with black powder rifles, of course. And I believe he owned a Thompson Center White Mountain carbine or something like that. I forget now what it was. But he really enjoyed hunting with a muzzleloader, and he suggested to me, he said, you know, you need to try that. As much as you like to deer hunt, you need to pick up a muzzleloader and start shooting it and take it out in the deer woods. And boy, was he right. A few years later, I bought a kit for a Thompson Center muzzleloader. This is a Hawken 50 caliber, and I feature this rifle in some of my previous videos. A lot of you have seen that. And I built this gun, I don't know, 30 years ago or so, out of a kit, and I've taken so many deer with this gun. I mean, some really nice trophy whitetail deer, and it's still a great shooter, really accurate. I've taken good care of it, kept it clean, cleaned it every time I got done using it, and it's just an old gun I really love. You know, it's just has so many fond memories attached to it, just like the other two I just showed you. And all these guns have memories attached to them, and that's the main reason that I just have so much admiration for them. And the pride of ownership goes beyond just the gun itself. Then there was one little gun that my brother owned for a few years, and then he kind of left it with me for a while, and then he ended up with it again, and it was just lost. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he sold it or if he loaned it to someone. He may have even taken it to a pawn shop. I don't remember. But here's one that's very much like it. This is a Marlin Model 60. These are inexpensive little guns. You can pick these up at gun shows and pawn shops still. I just saw one about a week ago at a pawn shop, and I think they wanted $150 for it. I mean, really cheap little gun. And there's so many of them out there. I think there's been like 12 million of these made in different configurations. Some of them have stainless steel barrels, and the manufacturer has changed location several times. That one time they were made in Connecticut, I believe. Yep, North Haven, Connecticut, like this one here. Then they were made in Kentucky for a few years, and then now they were being made in Alabama, you know, so I believe it was Huntsville where the new factory was. And now I've also heard recently that Ruger has bought out the Marlin brand, and they're going to be reproducing a lot of the classic Marlin rifles. And I'm thinking the Model 60 will be amongst that. But this is one that I really wanted because it had the squirrel imprinted on the stock, just like the one that I owned before. The one I actually had was a Glenfield. It had the Glenfield name on it, but it was still the Marlin Model 60 design. And they were sold under different names. You know, they were some of them had the name Revelation printed on them, and they were sold by stores like Western Auto, you know, and J.C. Penney, and so many different other brands out there that sold that particular model, and it had different names imprinted on the barrel, but they were all the Marlin Model 60 line. Then several years ago, I was a proud owner of some very fine bird dogs. I had English setters. The one true love that I had in hunting was quail hunting. For many, many years, I spent hours chasing the bobwhite quail. And the one shotgun that's connected with that is this Browning BPS in 20 gauge. I don't even know if these guns are still being made, but this one here has the golden trigger, and it has the engraving on both sides of the receiver. It has a very fine walnut stock that has cut checkering on it, both on the fore end and on the main stock here. Has a ventilated rib with interchangeable chokes at the front. And I have taken hundreds, if not thousands, of bobwhite quail with this little shotgun right here. And I remember buying it brand new years ago, and I always wanted a Browning because Browning does carry some prestige with it. They make some very, very fine guns. And I remember taking it home and taking it out of the box, and then I saw this impression right here on the barrel where it says made in Japan. So I immediately put it back in the box, took it back to the store, and I said, I don't want this thing, you know. And the guy behind the counter, I knew him pretty well, he said, reason that you don't want the gun, let me guess, is because you saw made in Japan printed on the barrel. I said, yeah, that's right. You know, I thought they were all made in Belgium. It's a Browning, you know. He said, trust me, these guns are very well made. You won't have any problems with it. Take it out this season, use it, and if you have any problems with it or you have any second thoughts after this season, bring it back and I'll give you your money back, no questions asked. Well, I still own it, folks. It's been an absolute pleasure to own this gun. I've never had a misfire. The action still works just as solidly as it did when it was brand new. It has these double loading bars on the side, you know. I just absolutely love this old shotgun, and it has a lot of memories attached to it as well, but it's just a good quality, solidly built little 20 gauge. Now they came in different gauges, 12 gauge and of course 28 gauge and I believe 410, but I wanted a 20 gauge because it was more ideally suited to the type of hunting that I did, hunting behind my English setter dogs. And they're all gone now. I don't have any more dogs, but the memories that I have from those days are kind of embedded in this old gun here, because this is the one that I used exclusively, and it just never has failed me. You know, it's always been just an absolutely great little gun to take into the field. Very dependable, points perfectly. I mean, as soon as I put it on my shoulder, it's right on the money. I'm looking right down the rib, and it's centered perfectly with the bead in the front. If I ever get back into bird hunting, I'll be using this again. Well, another gun that I'd like to include amongst cherished guns that are dear to me is one of the guns that I first got before I bought the Browning, and that's an old over and under double barrel 12 gauge. This is a Marochi, made in Italy, and it breaks open. This is like the old classic over under skeet and trap gun, but it's actually made for hunting purposes. And I used to quail hunt with this gun pretty regularly in the first few years when I got started, and then later when I got the Browning, I used it pretty much exclusively. But I still occasionally took out the 12 gauge, and I've taken it on dove shoots and a few rabbit hunts. You know, I've harvested a few rabbits with it, but it still shoots just as well as it did the day I bought it. I got this one at a pawn shop, believe it or not, for $200. That's been several years ago, but as you can see, it's still in really good condition. The bluing and everything's still in top-notch shape. The engraving on the receiver here is still really fine. It still locks up just solidly. There's no play at all. The safety works flawlessly. These old European double barrels, whether they be over, under, or side by sides, doesn't matter. They're all pretty well made. The German and the Italian guns and the English guns are at the top of the list. I'm sure those of you that own Berettas, which are Italian made, can attest to that. So there's a lot of memories attached to this old gun as well. Lots of bobwhite quail were taken by that old shotgun right there. Speaking about bird hunting, my old friend Bell Adkins has passed away for several years now, but we had a lot of times together, you know, a lot of great times together. And we started out quail hunting together, and his old shotgun is right here. I remember the day that he got this one. This is a Remington Model 1100 lightweight, also in 20 gauge. And he picked it up, I think, from a gun store, I believe. And I remember him having it in the truck, and I sat down in the truck next to him, and I looked down and I saw this gun laying in the seat there. And he said, "Look what I've got here, boy. Got a nice little jewel." And sure enough, it is. It's a fine little 20 gauge shotgun. There you can see on the side, it's the Remington Model 1100 LT 20 gauge. And it's really lightweight, points very easily, just like the Browning. And it's just a real joy to own. I take it out and shoot skeet with it every now and then. Like I said, I don't quail hunt anymore because I don't have dogs, and quite honestly, there's not many quail left, folks. You know, the bird hunting in this part of the country is just about over with. There's still a few pockets here and there where you find some quail, but unless they're truly abundant, I decide not to hunt them. You know, if they ever make a comeback, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon, then I'll get back into bird hunting. But until then, unless I can go out west somewhere, you know, maybe Oklahoma or Kansas or somewhere where there's still lots of birds, I just don't see any reason to get back into it. But I do still own these old guns. And when I pick up this old shotgun, I think about my old friend and all the good times that we had together. We also used to turkey hunt together a lot. I mean, we had so many good places to hunt, and the memories just flow back whenever you pick up this old gun, because you know that he had it in his hands and now you own it. So it's a tangible part of that person that you can hold in your hand and relive the memories. And that's kind of a sentimental reason why I love this old gun. It's a part of my old friend. Here's another one that he owned. This is an old Remington Model 512 Sportsmaster. It's a little bit beaten up. You can see here on the stock it's got some dings and scratches and everything, but you know what, I'm going to leave the gun just like it is. I hardly ever use it. My grandson, he'll take it out and shoot it every now and then because he likes shooting with open sights. But I just have it because it belonged to my old friend. And I just pick it up and I'll clean it every now and then, you know, run a cleaning patch through the barrel, keep it oiled and lubed and everything, just to keep his memory alive. So that's the reason we have the adoration for these old guns, because they belong to someone that was very dear to our hearts, and they're no longer with us. Well folks, in closing out this video, I don't want to get too sentimental about these old guns, but I just wanted to kind of make a connection with you viewers out there, those of you that are not gun owners. Let me leave you with one aspect of why we gun owners have so much pride and why we love our guns. Say for example there's a vehicle, a car that you wanted for many, many years. You either hadn't been able to afford it, or the opportunity just wasn't there for you to find exactly what you were looking for. But then one day you find the very car that you really wanted, and you're able to afford it, and you go out and buy it, and you get behind the wheel for the first time and you're driving down the road. You just feel this connection with that car. It's like, man, this is more than what I expected. I just absolutely love this car. And then every time you get in it, you know, that's your baby. That's the pride of ownership, and the joy of having that is exactly the same as what I'm talking about with some of these old guns that I own. It may be a car or a truck or something that's passed down to you from your dad or whatever. You know, it may be the first car that you learned how to drive in. I mean, the connections and the memories are so many. You know, it's just an overwhelming feeling you get sometimes when you get in that vehicle and you take it down the road. So hopefully you can relate to that. And who knows, maybe someday you'll go out and find a particular type of gun that you've always wanted, even though you may not be a gun owner. And you take it to a range and you shoot with it, and you become really good at shooting that particular gun. So it kind of grows on you, you know. And then you take your wife or your girlfriend or another close friend or whatever, and both of you can share a wonderful afternoon shooting that gun and showing just how well the gun is actually made and why you enjoy having it and everything, and you start to build memories. So, you know, it may be one that you want to go hunting with. You know, maybe you haven't taken up an outdoor activity like hunting, but you intend to someday, and there's a particular type of gun that you're looking for, and then when you find it, you just absolutely fall in love with it. So hopefully you can relate to that. Well, with that being said, let me close out the video and saying thanks for coming along. I appreciate you watching. And remember, hit that like button, smash the bell icon and subscribe. That way you'll know when more videos like this will be coming your way. And also remember, if you like to go hunting, fishing, camping, shooting, hiking, or whatever it may be, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. So until next time, y'all take care and get out there and enjoy the great outdoors. I'll see you.